Bonjour, mes amis, and welcome to Gourmet Cooking. We're going to do a little Japanese food tonight, one of my favorite types of foods, and it's fun to prepare. I think you're going to enjoy this. We're going to do a classic in the line of the Japanese cuisine, and that is tempura. I call it Japanese deep fry, and it's going to consist of some shrimp and fish and lots of wonderful vegetables in a very light tempura batter. And we're going to prepare that and accompany that with a nice Napa cabbage or an Oriental cabbage, if you will, sauteed with some nice sauce to go with it. A few accompaniments to go with it, and we'll have a wonderful meal with a little sake to end it all. So that is the menu, and for those of you that are interested, the recipes are on page 106 and 107 of Volume 3 of Gourmet Cooking. All right. We've got a number of things to do. As you know, in most Oriental cooking, the preparation time seems to consume more time than the actual cooking. Now, we've done a lot of that, but we're going to start doing some of it now just to show you what we went through. Let's take our vegetables, first of all, for our tempura. We have a number of items here. We had some broccoli, which we took off of the stem into nice florets, and we're going to use that in our batter. And we had some bell pepper, two kinds. I chose the red and the yellow simply because of color and flavor. The red has a delicious sweet flavor. You could use, of course, the green as well. And we need to cut those in nice slices, good-sized pieces, and we've done most of them, so we finished that. We have some nice green beans. All we did was take the ends off, and they're nice, and they really fry up beautifully. And we had some onion rings we took a nice large onion, cut a nice thick slice, as you can see. All right. And then we're pushing it through. We want the larger slices. I take every 2 rings. 1 ring is so thin. We take every 2 rings and pull them out together. Try to, anyway. Here we go. And make nice, thick onion rings. Well, I only have 1 here. That will leave me 2 more there. So we have those vegetables, and we also have some carrot. There's a number of ways of doing that. I've done many of them already. We've sort of made little sticks out of them. That's one way. Let's do another one, a different way. We take a nice fat carrot, if you can get one, and we cut it on an angle into nice slices, large, flat slices, and they will batter very nicely and fry just beautifully in tempura. And the color combinations here are fantastic, but gee, the flavor combinations are even more interesting. So those are our vegetables we're going to use, and we're going to have a shrimp tempura, and that requires some nice shrimp. I have some reasonably large shrimp here. We simply peel those, and we deveined them, took the vein out, and left the little tail section on, mostly for color and for appearance. Now, if we just fry this guy is going to curl up like this, and that's not what we want. So what we have to do is on the underside, we make 2 or 3 little slits, and we need to do that on most all of these. We didn't do that ahead, and this should help that to stop the curling effect that happens when it goes into the hot oil. So just a little slit on the underside should keep this from curling and give us a nice, beautiful shape to these shrimp. Now, I've done most of these. I'll do the others just before we put them into our sauce, or rather our oil. And then we also have some nice pieces of fish. You can use any nice firm. You need a flat piece of fish. This happens to be triggerfish. It could have been flounder. It could be trout. The main thing is it must be thin. If it's too thick, it won't cook all the way through because this is a very quick frying method. And with that, we're also going to have a couple of appetizers, which we're going to get to, and we're going to have some nice Napa cabbage. This has been draining. We wash this by running cold water down and shaking it and getting all the water out. And we're going to prepare this because we don't want to wait till the last minute. You simply cut this into nice shreds, and we're going to stir fry this and let this be an additional accompaniment to our deep fry dish of tempura, primarily shrimp tempura. Now, we've only chosen a few of the items that could be used in a tempura. There are many, many, many vegetables, many seafoods. Scallops would be great. And it's just a matter of choice. And I looked for color tonight as well as flavor. Now, there's a couple of other items that we have to accommodate ourselves to. And that for the tempura. So let's move over to those. Clear this board a little bit and wipe it up. And our knife as well. We're going to also, in our tempura, have some nice mushrooms, which you can see are nice large mushrooms. We've cut the stems off. We only want the caps. And I'm going to just put a cross in the top of each of these simply for appearance and possibly to let a little bit of that oil get to the mushroom and cook it a little quicker. Now, if we had time, we would flute these mushrooms. And let's do one. This is not very oriental. This is more French. But by fluting the mushroom, you give it another shape. I'm not going to do the whole thing, but it's appropriate simply to put a cross in them. And we're also going to need tonight some bananas. And these are rather firm bananas because you're going to deep fry them in the tempura. So now I didn't want to peel those too far in advance for fear they would turn black. We take a whole banana and cut it in half, and then we cut that half in half again lengthwise. So we get 4 pieces of banana out of one. Let's take a second banana and peel it. Now these are rather, well, they're not really green. They're perfectly ripe and edible, but they're nice and firm. They're ideal for frying. In fact, they're ideal for eating out of hand as far as I'm concerned. But these will hold their shape in the hot oil. Now, we have those items going. We're going to need a batter, and we'll come to that very shortly. In the meantime, though, we've got a couple of items that we want to do that were just added to the menu. They're not in the book. They're just a couple of little fun-type things that we're going to use as an appetizer. We're going to make some little cucumber boats, and I already have some made. And for that, we take a nice cylinder of the cucumber and cut that into 4 parts, giving us these 4 little sections here. Let's move them all aside except one, and we're going to cut part of that seed portion out. And then coming down a little lower, I want to cut back a sliver, but not all the way. I want to leave it attached at one end. And then taking a toothpick, we simply lift that cucumber up, put a toothpick through, and we've created a little boat. But it needs a little shaping. So we'll cut the front ends off and around the bottom. And to accommodate another filling, we're going to cut a little bit of that cucumber out of the center to make a little pocket for our boat. Let's do another one. We'll cut the seed portion off, cut back on the cucumber, leaving it attached, turning that up. We then run a toothpick for our sail on our cucumber boats. Now, we won't do the other two. We've got plenty there. But to complete this, we need to take and put a filling. And that filling is very simple. It is some nice salmon caviar. The eggs, the roe of the salmon, that have been salted. We'll put a little bit in each one of our cucumber boats, and we have a very appetizing, very colorful, and very attractive little appetizer to go with as a first course to our meal. Let's see. We have this one here. We didn't shape him. Let's shape him quickly. And take a little of the inside out. And put a little bit of our a little bit of our salmon. Now we have some left over, but we'll make some more boats later. We don't want to do that the whole show on camera. So we'll put that aside. And another little appetizer that we want to have, we have some hard-boiled eggs. Now I have one that we have here. Now these eggs were placed in cold water, in the shell of course, raw, and the water was brought to the boil. The minute it came to a boil, we timed it for 5 minutes. 5 minutes is not long enough to really totally hard boil this, but it gave us a nice firm outside, and with any luck, the inside will be semi-hard and semi-soft, and it's exactly what we wanted. We cut a little bit off the bottom so that it will stand up, and we're going to then put a little bit of salt on each one and garnish that with a few black sesame seeds. A nice color, a nice taste, a crunchiness, toasted, tasty sesame seeds. It gives us another little appetizer to accompany our tempura, or at least come before our tempura. So we have these two, and we'll put those aside, and we'll assemble those on a plate a little later, and we'll see if we have time to do a few garnishes. Now let's make our batter. Our batter requires 1 cup of flour, 2 egg yolks, and 1 cup of cold water. Cold water. That is very important. Now that's in the refrigerator. I was afraid to leave it out here. So we're going to go get our water, which is ice cold. And I repeat, that is very important in making the tempura batter. And we're going to incorporate then our flour, our egg yolks, and the butter, not butter, not in Japanese cooking. We're going to combine the water and make a batter. This should be a fairly thin batter, and it should be a little bit lumpy. You don't mix it till it's just completely smooth. It should be a little bit lumpy. Now, this is going to take a minute or so to get our batter going. But it is important that the batter be ice cold. Let's get it. Now, we want all the flour dissolved. We don't want uncooked flour. But, as I say, a few lumps are appropriate to this particular batter. All right, we're going to maybe start our tempura because we have many things to fry. Now let's go over to our stove, and we have 2 pots. We have 2 woks or pots of oil, and they have to be at 330 to 340 degrees. If you don't, you're going to get a soggy product. When the product hits the water, it should, the oil, it should sear that batter and seal in the juices and cook the food very fast. Now, to make sure, I'm using a thermometer. This happens to be a candy thermometer, but it also gives you indications for frying fish and donuts and potatoes and so forth. Now, this must be at 330 or 40 degrees, and we're just about there on this one. And I think this one is probably hotter. This burner usually burns hotter. Right. They're both just about where they need to be. And they will get a little warmer while we proceed with some of our ingredients. Let's start with our shrimp. Let's cut the rest of those that I didn't cut before so that they won't curl on us. All right, let's see. We should have about 3 more to do. Yeah, 2 more was all we had. All right, let's take those. I can use my fingers best here. And remember, that is a very cold batter. And we dip our food into the batter and very gently slide it into the hot oil. You don't overload. Now, one of the secrets, too, is to not put more food than will cover 1/3 of the surface. You will lower the temperature of the oil too much, and you will not get good tempura. All right. We've got our fish. They don't take long. Our shrimp, they only take about a minute to a minute and a half. And we want to have enough for 8 here, so we have quite a few shrimp, at least 2 per person, if not more. All right. I think the next item on our list should be our fish. And for that, maybe I should use the chopsticks if I have any dexterity at all with them. We dip that. My dexterity is not great tonight. So we'll simply use, and we'll put that into this, taking our fish, lightly covering it. We drop it into hot oil, remembering to keep only about 1/3 of the surface covered. So we have 2 of our major items underway for our tempura. Now that's going to be enough fish for the moment. I think, though, we can take our shrimp out of our oil, and that's right. These should not brown. They should get nice and crusty, and about 2 minutes is plenty of time for shrimp to cook. So we have a nice crusty shrimp as one of the items on our menu. Let's put this out in the front. Let's take some of our vegetables and see if we can't. Let's just put the onion rings in. And as we coat them, we'll drop those into oil. The fish is just gurgling away nicely over there. That's about ready to come out. So about the time that we finish putting our onion rings into our batter, we can then go on to another vegetable. Now these I'm putting a lot in at once, but since they have such a narrow surface and lots of hole in the middle, we're still not covering that much of the surface. Now, let's go to our fish and take this out. Nice and crispy. That fish is well cooked. Remember, we're not looking for this to brown. We're only looking for it to give us a nice crust. As you notice, I'm putting those onto a platter with some paper towel. Let's do some bell pepper. We can do that very quickly. Get some of it going anyway. As you can see, this is not very exciting because it's kind of repetitious, but the finished product is such an interesting and flavorful dish that we... Now, let's get a few beans, and we'll put those in. a few of our carrots, and we'll come back to that in a moment. Now, we're going to have to take a little time to prepare the rest of that, and we'll do that while you watch the recipes because it's going to take a little more time. Now, in the meantime, we can get the cabbage going. Let's put the onions. And as you can see, they've got a nice coating on them, and they are nice and tender. Now, let's take this off the heat, and I'll put that in the back out of the way, and move another skillet up front here, into which we're going to put some cooking oil, and we're going to mix together some grated ginger, some sake wine, a little sugar, and a little soy sauce. Now this will be for our cabbage. Now, this has to come up to heat, but we can let that come up to heat with the cabbage, and we will be able to toss this and serve that very shortly. In the meantime, our peppers and a few of the beans are ready, so we can take those and put those on our tray for draining. We toss the cabbage in the oil. Now, while that's cooking, in a small pot here, we've got the heat turned on. We want to add some chicken stock, soy sauce, and mirin wine, a rice wine. And we let those come back to a boil, and that will be a dipping sauce. Tossing our cabbage, we're going to put our sauce over the cabbage and toss that for a minute or so. Now, as you can see, time is going to run out, but I'll tell you what we're going to do. We're going to continue cooking, and we're going to do the mushrooms and the bananas and a few more of the vegetables and add those together. And when we get all that done, we're going to assemble that and bring that into the dining room and show it to you. In the meantime, we could take one of our dishes, at least, and put it together, and that's going to be our nice little egg appetizers. And we have a nice garnish, which is a Brussels sprout made into a nice flower. All right? And then we're going to also, on this same tray, place our egg boats. And that will be our appetizer. I think now, though, we could very well serve our cabbage, which is just flavorful, and the fragrance is wonderful. So we have our cabbage, we have our tempura, which is still underway, and we will present that to you in the dining room. And we have some of the tempura all made. We're going to accompany this with some beautiful rice, and we're going to serve some pineapple for dessert. So while we finish the tempura, let us show you the recipes, and we'll see you in the dining room. Well, while you were gone, we finished up the tempura. We completed the vegetables that we hadn't quite finished cooking. Nothing new, just more of what we did on camera. But we were able to put it all together, and we have our beautiful shrimp, all nicely crisp and fried, with our onion rings, some beautiful broccoli, our nice carrot slices, the bell pepper, the fish, the banana, the green beans, and some more bell pepper. This and the mushrooms all around too. Let's not forget them. This is great, and you can do all kind of things. You can even do beautiful strawberries instead of the banana. They really are wonderful. And of course, we arranged the foods on the plate, and we're going to enjoy this meal. We're going to start first by taking one of the eggs. If my little chopsticks are too slippery there, we'll simply lift one egg and one of the egg boats, rather the cucumber boats with the caviar, and we'll start with that. That will be our first course, and we'll enjoy this appetizer with a little bit of hot sake, a nice combination. And then after we've finished eating that, we're going to take some of our tempura. We're certainly going to have a nice shrimp, and we want a piece of the fish. We'll place that on our plate. We like onion rings. And I tell you, one of the most flavorful things on this platter are the green beans. They are just wonderful, nice and crisp and crunchy. And these chopsticks are a little bit glazed, and they're hard to pick up. So we have various tempura. We're going to eat a little bit of everything on this plate. And then we're going to eat some of our nice cabbage that's been stir-fried with a wonderful sauce, some rice, of course, and of course we have a dipping sauce to dip our tempura in, and we're going to do that and eat as we go all these wonderful flavors. I will finish this off with some nice slices of fresh pineapple. Very delicious and refreshing, a typical Japanese ending to a meal. This has been a fun meal. It's going to be great to eat. I hope you will try this and join us in this kind of meal. Japanese cuisine at its best. A little sake to go with everything, and it just makes it just wonderful. We hope to see you next time. Join us, won't you? A bientôt.
La douceur du temps nous fait des avances. Partez mes enfants, vous avez 20 ans, partez en vacances.